find a bug, I think, okay, the code's always very seductive. The code always looks right. The code's very seductive. But try to understand, this thing that I think is true is not true. And find that piece that's not true is hard. But to me, that's part of the education I learned, the sort of classical Jesuit education. And I was here at last spring on Parents' Day, and Matt Jensen was teaching something from Aquinas. Aquinas' argument about, can God do evil, some sort of limitations on God. Well, the actual topic there may or may not be of interest to you, but the argument is critical. Learning the ability to understand why this statement proves something or doesn't prove something, if it's claimed as it proves something, does it really prove something? That's critical, and that's critical for technology. Technology in some ways is overwhelming in all the details, but they're basic logic engines. And that logic, a guy named George Boole in the 19th century invented all the logic that we will probably ever use in computers. It's all, he had all the laws and understanding laid out for us. I think the other aspect, thinking clearly, is that there's been to my mind, a big shift. When I was in high school, even through my first master's degree, access to information was very difficult. I studied alchemy, and just finding someone's writings. Like I wanted to read one of Nicholas Flamel's tracts. It was very hard to do that. So, he isn't Harry Potter, if you know that name from Harry Potter. She actually is very good on alchemists, by the way. What she talks about the alchemists is very historically well-grounded. But if I want to get access to that, I had to arrange for a library to send it to another library. It was a difficult and arduous process. There was a rare book room at IU, which I love to go into. But to me, the shift that's gone on is that for your generation, access to information is not the issue. It's filtering information. If you type in Nicholas Flamel on Google right now, you'll probably get 2.5 million hits. Well, trying to understand which of those are reliable, which of those answer the question you want, is something I've had to learn that on my own, and it wasn't really a challenge for my particular generation. Okay, 1 minute remaining. I think the other thing is learn to write well. And this is just fundamental, learning to write well. Most of the work that I do, I have to write a description of it and convince somebody else to spend money on it. Most people who control the money are not folks who are also engineers. I have to be able to explain my ideas clearly. I have to explain my ideas clearly to people who may be in another continent. The general response on getting when you have not written well, often people want to say to a teacher, well, you know what I mean. Well, that may be the case for somebody who's on the same hallway as you. The fact is, you take this thing, you float it, to India, and you don't have that shared context, then they don't know what you mean. And I think the final thing I'd say quickly is that, what you're doing well is looking around this room. Technology is massively international at this point. So being able to interact with my team includes people from India, people from Russia, people from China, people from Vietnam. There's all these different, and so being able to interact with other people, even though they may speak a very different variety of English than I speak, but in general, interacting with people from other cultures is tremendously important technology that tends to span the globe.
Thank you, Mike. Thinking outside of the box sort of was the theme of the first part of your discussion, coming up with new ideas to resolve things. And I think one of the most effective commercials right now on TV are the Windows 7's commercial, where everybody's taking credit. It was their idea for Windows 7. And I think the whole theme there was somebody thought outside the box, and they thought, it'd be a little bit better if I could do this. Windows 7 can do it. Windows 7 was my idea. And that really was the first part of your discussion. You saw needs and you satisfied them. So thank you very much. You've been given cards. You've been writing questions. Put the names for the questions. There will be people gathering them. So if you could start gathering the cards. And while we're doing that, Mark, I'm going to put you on the spot for just a moment, if you don't mind, because we've learned what Don does, and we know what Mike does. And we know the thoughts on entrepreneurship, which were excellent. But I know what you're doing now and how you're doing it. Could you maybe just discuss for a few moments what you're doing, the trials and tribulations in starting a new business, and what's your thought process?
and I wanted to learn more, so I decided to go to that cooking school. And then from there I traveled quite a bit. I've worked in Europe, and I worked at Domaine Chandon and Napa and back to the Caribbean and things like that. And ended up here for a series of reasons I won't go into. But and I was at the Belmont Hills Country Club for 12 years. And the country clubs in this part of the country, quite frankly, aren't doing well. And I saw myself being, if not eliminated, phased out at some point, relatively soon, in fact. I was told so. So I decided to buy that little store in Bethesda simply because I didn't want to do the massive driving it would entail for me to go find a decent job for me after 25 years as a chef, close, which would involve Pittsburgh or Zanesville or who knows where, Steubenville, more than I wanted to, especially with my kids as young as they were. Now, I'd never been in a store like that. I'd certainly never been a merchant of any kind. And it was a real learning as you go. We made some horrific mistakes in the beginning, which we're still digging our way out of. But it seems to be working a little better. And when we bought it, we didn't expect the economy to tank quite as bad as it did, or how I would tell you to prepare for that, I would say like this, fellow, you must find something you like and something you would look forward to do all your life. I kind of got burned out on cooking. Those hours do add up. I still enjoy cooking. And some days I go to people's homes and cook meals. I do a lot of catering that I really get a massive kick out of. I still love to do certain things. I can't deny even those hours. I don't mind it. It's still a lot of fun for me. There's a very strong creative aspect to food. And it's never, ever the same. Even the same steak is never the same. Same bottle of wine is never the same. And you can really learn to appreciate that, I suppose. But you have to want to do that. You can end up as a drudge. It's really not hard nowadays to do that. Many people do. I would recommend, if I'm now in my 6th decade of life, if you want to look back on something with any meaning, besides maybe your marriage or your children, is to find something you really do enjoy and to absolutely love it with all your heart. Whether it be making money, it does not have to be money. I'm tired of money. It's exhausting, quite frankly, to me right now. But you can find many other things that are good. And that, if I had one single advice, it'd be to think hard about what you want to do and think hard what it means to be in your 40s, 50s, or 60s and how you want to end up. I'm not complaining about it. I still do like to cook. I wish I could control my hours a little better, but that's just the way it worked out. But that's down the road. I'll be cooking for many more years. And it's the only thing I know how to do. I just hope to, at some point in my life, maybe soon, just kind of organize it just a wee bit better, I suppose.
Excellent.
That's it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Boy, am I glad I put you on the spot. That was great. Well, during that time, I've been handed many questions. Very good. Not sure which one to go with first, but I'm going to pick this one. And this one is for any of the presenters. Are you ready? From your knowledge of our region, what services and products do people here need that a high school program could provide? And again, repeating, from your knowledge of our region, what services and or products do people here need that a high school program could possibly provide? Anyone want to take that?
I would just say that it's, I don't think there's an immediate answer to that. I think it depends who the school might find that would want to kind of supervise or run such a program, because their interest and their skills, I think, will matter a lot. I think as far as services, I think there's a wide variety of things, but I think you need to find a niche or a particular need that you can fill. And I don't, without, you could do some search and probably find something, but I don't have an immediate answer to that. But I think you need to find something where there's a niche or a need that you can fill that somebody else is not filling, either because they aren't providing the service or they don't have the exact quality that the people are looking for, or maybe it's something entirely new.
Any of the other panelists like to respond to that?
One thing that's occurred to me, my wife has an elderly friend that is constantly confused by her computer. And I wonder if setting up some kind of support service where, believe it or not, you guys probably know much more about computers than you think you do and how to use various programs. And some of you probably know what happens when the printer won't talk to the computer. And that's actually fairly baffling to a lot of people. I don't know if you got to find a revenue stream, I guess, is the real issue. But I know my brother for a while was actually out of work. He was looking up setting something where he would go in and sell a service to people where once a month he'd go in and verify that they're bugged it, I'm blank on the word, the virus scan was working, how come set up their computer. People do things that it's baffling to me because people hit a button and forgot to hit the button. How come my computer's not working anymore? It's like, well, you just said to erase all your mail. You hit that button. So I don't know, you may have a lot of that expertise among yourselves. And it's not like you're going to be writing programs, but people who they don't know how to set up their wireless. Well, I imagine that a lot of you folks probably do know how to set up a wireless. So maybe that's just an idea.
Excellent, thank you. Next question, and this flips over to the other side. As entrepreneurs, can you talk about your failures and what you learned from them? What advice would you give to avoid failure? And again, repeating, as entrepreneurs, can you talk about your failures and what you learned from them? What advice would you give to avoid failure?
One thing I would say, and it's different for different kinds of businesses, but from our point of view, it was usually start out small and get familiar with your customer base and your own skills and your plant or whatever you have that you're going to do, and then build on that. There are certain kinds of industries where they have to have a huge amount of capital. You can't make anything go unless you expend a huge amount of capital and dive into it. But that's on a scale that I don't think we're talking about here. We're talking about smaller businesses, and I think it's better to start on a small scale. Try to keep your overhead low. It's always good to keep it low, but especially when you're starting. And I would agree with what you were saying. Have enough capital so that if you hit one bump, you aren't just wiped out. You've got enough to get over some rough spots.